But Anthony, we're gonna play a game to end off this show. By the way, if you guys have any comments, please leave them on, and we'll read your comments. Keep them NFL related, please, because that's what we're gonna be talking about here. If they're not NFL related, I'm sorry. Maybe next stream you guys will talk. You guys can ask me some questions. But we're gonna play solid starter or nah. Now, if you say nah, Anthony, that doesn't mean it's negative. Does not mean, oh no, these guys are bad. That means you believe that this quarterback is not just a solid starter. He could actually improve. He's actually going to be better than what you think. So I got 4 guys for you. 4 guys that I like a lot. Well, I don't like them a lot. I just chose these 4 guys. But I got 4 guys that I feel fit this description. And we're going to start with the man. He's in the thumbnail. He won. He upsetted the homecoming for Russell Wilson. Former Charger legend, former Jets legend, Geno Smith. Anthony, is Geno Smith a solid starter or nah?
Nah, I mean, like when we're talking about starting quarterbacks in the league, there's got to be 32. Best case, he's like mid-20s. Like he's probably low 20s or even 30s. I mean, which is good. He hasn't started in 8 years. Week 1, the fact he can do that, but nah. Not a solid starter.
I'm with you. I mean, Geno Smith, he does this, man. He shows these little flashes. Remember when Russell Wilson went out last year too, and fans were excited, like, oh no, we're fine. We got Geno, because he showed flashes in that one game. This is what he does. This is what Geno Smith does. He shows these little flashes. You get excited. You see the athleticism. He had a great comeback of, oh, the league wrote me off, but I didn't write back. It's like, oh wow, this guy has all the confidence, all the money, and then he might get better. And also, his leash is not as long. I mean, he has a short leash. I mean, Drew Lock is back there ready to tug on it. And I know Drew Lock, man. Drew Lock likes to tug on those leashes and pull people back. Now, the next quarterback, Anthony, actually faced off against Matt Ryan, who we were pretty harsh on. Davis Mills from the Texans. Now, Mills, shocking rookie year last year, came in and played very well under the circumstances and the team that he had. And then this year, shocked us again. I mean, Davis Mills is just a really, really solid quarterback. And for me, Anthony, I'm going to jump the gun here. I'm going to call him a solid starter. I think if you had Davis Mills as your quarterback, you're not upset. You're not like, oh man, we can win a Super Bowl, but to win some games and get you where you need to go, I give Davis Mills a solid starter's thumbs up. Do you give him a solid starter, or do you think he could improve, or do you think, nah, he just stinks?
No, I think you're right. I think solid starter. I think he's a high ceiling guy high floor guy. I don't think his ceiling's that big. I think this is probably about what you're going to get. But a lot of teams would love to have a quarterback like this. He helped a Texans team that's really not that good tie against a Colts team that's okay to a little bit above average. I'd put him at. You know, you got to point a lot of the fingers at him that he was able to do that. So yeah, solid starter.
I saw him give OJ Howard 2 touchdowns. OJ Howard, we were waiting for it. He's your version of Irv Smith. We've been waiting for OJ Howard to break out for years. He got 2 touchdowns. I think that's like the most he's ever got. I don't even know. I haven't even looked up OJ Howard's touchdown stats, but OJ Howard got 2 touchdowns, and for whatever reason, Brandon Cooks just won't go away. Him and Davis Mills have like a weird, fun connection. But this is another quarterback, Anthony, that I'm going to talk to you about. We actually talked about him earlier. He's an Indianapolis Colts scrap, Super Bowl champion, mind you, Anthony. He did win a Super Bowl, whether you want to admit it or not. He did. Super Bowl champion Carson Wentz of the Commanders. Anthony, is Carson Wentz a solid starter or not?
No. I sold his stock. I think he was still in the Eagles. I already sold my stock. I guess they gave up more too. They gave up way more than they should have to get Carson Wentz. Like that's a guy who could have potentially got cut. I feel like if the Commanders didn't trade for him. Yeah, a big nah. It's only week 1. The season's young. He's had a lot of health concerns too of staying healthy. Combined out with his play that's just okay at best. Yeah, I'd avoid this man.
Wow, not high on Carson Wentz, and I will say this, man. Anthony, I'm a little bit of a Trubisky-holic. I believe in Trubisky. I'm one of those people where I'm in and I'm out. I can't quit on Trubisky. There's something about that athleticism, Call me a Wentzaholic too, Anthony. I am still going to call him a solid starter. I know he had a bad. Look. I'm going to say this. Washington is a much more talented offensive team than the Colts were. The Colts, everyone's going to say, Chase, what about Jonathan Taylor? That's it. Everything else he was throwing to, Mo Alley Cox, Michael Pittman was still a raw product. I look at the Colt, I look at the Commanders, and I look at that offense. Curtis Samuel, a guy that is a versatile running back, receiver, H-back type player. You got Jahan Dotson, my receiver crush. I love Jahan Dotson. You know, I've been telling people this guy, like when Commanders fans were upset, they were like, "We drafted Jahan." I'm like, "No, you should be happy you drafted Jahan Dotson. This guy is a stud." And then scary Terry. The Commanders played the Chargers last year. Terry McLaurin, week 1, made this incredible catch against Casey Hayward, who has been one of the most solid corners in the NFL in the last few years. About maybe 3 years ago, he was one of the top 10 corners in the league. But scary Terry did his thing, man. And that's the thing I want to say, man. These guys right here, these receivers, they're going to make Carson Wentz better. They're going to make Carson Wentz a better player. And then Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson, when he comes back, and a bunch of other running, I'm sorry, Carson Wentz is a solid starter because this is a good team around him. So you may be out on Wentz, but I'm a Wentzaholic, Anthony. I'm going to be drinking that Wentz. I'm going to be that one guy that orders the one beer that no one sells anymore. I'm buying the Wentz. I'm buying the Wentz stock. Get me. I'm back in, Anthony. I'm back in. Maybe I'll change my mind in the later in the season, but I'm back in. You could stay out. You lost your pass to Wentz Island, okay? But you know what, Anthony? The last guy today, I had to put him on this list. He gets a little bit of flack. He's a fun quarterback. He doesn't have his commercials anymore. He got kicked out of his house. He always has a chip on his shoulder. But Baker Mayfield, Anthony, the former number 1 overall pick, current Carolina Panthers quarterback, solid starter or nah?
I will say solid starter. This is not a man I'd want as my quarterback. I feel much better with Kirk Cousins. But he played well. He did his job. He did his job Sunday. They almost pulled it off. But he didn't. He almost beat his former team. Number 1 pick, sure. I'll say solid starter. I think we've seen the best of Baker Mayfield. It's just how long can this Baker Mayfield last? I think he can last a little bit. I think he probably have a few seasons of this Baker Mayfield, and then he's probably a backup till who knows how long. But for now, yeah, solid starter.
This is a hard one for me because I'm not a Baker-holic. I'm a Trubisky-holic. I'm a Wentz-aholic. That makes more sense. Baker Mayfield, it's either he's really great or he's really bad. But there's games where I've seen a Baker where I feel like he's one of those quarterbacks that I think loves chaotic games. He plays well in those chaotic games. And I know people are gonna say, Chase, you keep bringing up the Chargers. They're my team. I played against Baker Mayfield. I know what this guy can do. The Chargers and the Browns had like a shootout, and Baker looked dang good in that shootout. And I feel like the guy had a pretty bad shoulder injury. I felt he looked much more healthier against the Panthers. Like I said, not the stat line was impressive or anything, but I felt he looked a lot healthier on the Panthers than he did last year. I know everyone's going to say, Chase, well, he couldn't find ways to get Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, David Njoku. Yeah, that's fine. I also think Kevin Stefanski is one of the more overrated coaches in the league. I know Browns fans, you're going to say, oh, Chase, how dare you say that? Stop. Okay. Like, look, I'm just saying, I just find him a little bit overrated as a head coach in the National Football League. I feel like he should be the one that should get the most out of the talent, not always blame it on the player. But, Baker Mayfield, I believe, is a solid starter in the NFL. I think a lot of teams that like crap on him, he kind of reminds me of a lesser Phillip Rivers. Maybe that's why I like Baker. Phillip Rivers got a lot of hate. Everyone was like, Phil, he just talks too much. He has all attitude. I don't like Phil Rivers. But Baker Mayfield's kind of like that, where it's like you hate him when he's on the other team because he's so obnoxious. But then when he's on your squad, you appreciate it. You love Baker Mayfield. You say, man, I'm all in on Mr. Baker Mayfield.